I want to introduce the last concept that some of you are familiar with and start by asking you, have any of you, in this deal that you did today, did anyone open with more than one offer? Could you have? Do you think? And what do you think the effect of that is?
Gets the conversation started.
Yeah, it's either this or this, right? And it's back to that distributive thing. Were we just distributing in a zero sum, this one offer thing, or did we come up with sort of 2 or 3 paths forward? And I'm gonna actually ask you to think through, because building these things, there's 2 parts of building what we call multiple solution options. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to come up with 3 paths forward, given your role, that you could have presented to the other side, because it will be easier when you try to do this in your real life to try it here. There's 2 parts of building multiple solution options. One is branding them. Before we even talk about commercial terms, I have 3 paths forward. Let me tell you, this one is about this one's about this one's about driving this, and those are usually business needs, right? Let me talk about how I'm impacting your business. Now let's look at the commercial terms associated with each of those investments, right? So when I had mentioned earlier about being a poor kid from the South Side and feeling like I didn't belong in Evanston, and then it was even kind of more strange when I hooked up with my business partner who taught at Kellogg and then ultimately went to Harvard. And at the end of our first year, I looked at how much money we made, and we had made some, which is pretty cool. And I looked at the distribution of that money, and I looked at what Max got and what I got. And I wasn't really crazy about the distribution. It wasn't awful. He didn't completely take advantage of me. But I had to go up and have a conversation with, Google this guy's name. He's kind of a big deal. I had to go negotiate with this guy. And so even though I've been out as a negotiation consultant, the newly minted one for the last year, I had to go negotiate with Max. So I invited him to lunch. We go to lunch. I talk about everything under the sun but money because it's uncomfortable, right? And it's also Max, and I'm intimidated. So Max looks at his watch and said, I got to be getting back. I have to teach at 1 o'clock or whatever. And I blurted out, Max, I'm not making enough money here. And so go back to the crazy frizzy hair, the beard, the baggy clothes. He kind of rocks back in his chair a little bit and plays with his beard, and he goes, so you want some of mine? Brilliant, actually, right? Because I just broke one of the rules that I had been teaching consulting on for the last year, which is never negotiate one thing. I should have just said, Max, open your wallet, right? And so he found a very diplomatic way of spanking me, first of all, as a consultant, to say, I can't believe, but that was the moment, I think, where I started becoming a negotiation consultant, because I taught people to do one thing, but didn't do it, right, after year 1. And now it's like, okay, right, I'm getting schooled by the master. And so Max says, look, by the way, what's my alternative in this thing? If I don't reach agreement with Max, what's my likely alternative? What's that? Quit. Start another company, quit, get another job, or the existing contract, do nothing. So my most likely one at that moment was to do nothing. I loved my 17-year corporate career, but I loved being an entrepreneur even more. I didn't want to start, like we're on a roll now. I didn't want to start. So I should take any deal from Max when it's a little bit better than my current deal. So Max says to me, how about I give you more cash flow, more of my cash flow, and you give me some of your equity? Or another one where you actually take less cash flow, but I give you some of my equity. And there was one more variable in here, I can't remember, and he gave me 3 of these choices. And by the way, I couldn't do in my head quickly enough which of these was most valuable to me, and he knew that. He knew my alternative most likely was to stay there with the existing agreement, and he knew I couldn't do that, so he did another cool thing. He said, you know what? Which of these 3 offers is least offensive to you? Which offends you least? And I said, believe it or not, the one where I take less cash flow and gain more equity. And now I thought, I'm really getting screwed here. I never should have come up and negotiated with this guy. I came up looking for money, and I'm going to walk out with less? And he looked at me and he said, you value long-term equity more than short-term cash flow. And I said, yes, I do. I love me some long-term equity. Not until you played this game. What was this game you just played with me? And he said, well, he calls them multiple equal offers, but it's all the same. And he said, I could tell by the way you ranked them. He said, the other thing that I learned about you is that you really believe in this business. You just traded me cash for equity.